Hey, welcome to the next video. In this module, we're going to be talking about how you can use tools like Portfolio Stats, the Sandbox, and the Portfolio or Optimizer tool to create and build better recommendations, but also dive a little bit deeper into those portfolio analytics and really help those clients that maybe are a little bit more analytically minded understand what direction you're moving into as far as recommendations go. So before we hop into that, I want to mention that you will have access to all of these tools that we're covering in this module if you have the Research Center subscription, Nitrogen Elite, or Nitrogen Complete. But with that, let's actually move into a client portfolio here. So I'm going to pull up our client Paul as an example, and we'll dive a little bit into his actual portfolio here. So like I said, Stats is a really good tool to dive deeper, take a peek under the hood, and see how this portfolio is actually working. Now, before we hop into that, I will mention, of course, we have the high level analytics inside of a portfolio on the right hand side here. Some of these will be carrying over into stats as well. But if you want to keep a conversation a little bit more high level, you can stick here. If you need to go again, peek under that hood and see what is actually happening here, you can click on our stats button there within a portfolio or a proposal. So we'll do that. Navigate to the stats page here, and you'll notice a few things as we hop in. So the first thing is the stats will be in this center part here. We'll have a few widgets that we'll talk about in just a moment. When you hop into stats, this portfolio sandbox will automatically open. Now, for now, I'm going to actually close this. We'll come back to it in just a moment because I really want to hone in on what is all available inside stats here. So the very first thing, of course, is going to be this portfolio summary view. This is very similar to what you would see inside a portfolio at that high level, like I just talked about on the right hand side there. But we also have in this portfolio summary here trailing returns. So if you're interested in viewing that for the entire portfolio, you can absolutely do that. Now, what if you wanted to take a look at just a singular account within this portfolio? How do you do that? Great question. You can come up to the top here and you'll notice there's a little 2 of 2 accounts. Now this will say, 3 of 3, depending on how many accounts you have, that number will update for you. But you can click on this little caret here, and it's going to open this drop down menu where you can then toggle on or off these specific accounts. So maybe I only want to look at this investment account here. I can hover over that and click only, and it's going to mute the other account for you. I'll click done and it's going to update these analytics in the middle. So now we're at 1 of 1 accounts, only looking at that investment account. And now we can walk through these different widgets here. So again, at a high level, we have some portfolio summary, some quick stats, the trailing returns there. The next thing here is going to be our modeled performance widget. So this is a really cool tool to take a look back and see how historically this portfolio has performed. And you can benchmark it against different things in here. So you can take, for example, I have the S&P 500 benchmark set up there. I'm also including a model here, so you can come in here, add different benchmarks, add different comparisons, and you can come down to the bottom of the chart here to actually do that. So when you click add comparison there, this side panel will open for you. Here you can change the benchmark. So maybe I wanted to use another portfolio, a market index, maybe even a security or model. I can do that as well. And then I can come in here and add comparisons too. So I have a model here. I'm going to add in, maybe let's do another market index. So we'll scroll through here, find the one that we want. Let's do QQQ here and add it in as an extra comparison there. And it's going to update the chart. So you'll see each one of these, whether you have a benchmark, a comparison, or that current portfolio is going to be marked in a specific color, and that will translate onto the chart here as well. Now, below the chart or below the graph here, we have a chart with some accompanying analytics. So for each one of these benchmarks, the current portfolio, that those maybe market indexes that you're using as comparisons, you'll have some accompanying analytics, things like standard deviation for each, total return, alpha, things like that. Now, if you want even more here, I will say you can come over to the settings cog on the right hand side over here, click that guy. And not only can you toggle on and off these individual widgets within stats, but you can also come to model performance and decide what you want to display here in terms of analytics. So maybe I do want beta there, not really interested in R squared. Sharpe ratio is great. So you can come in here and toggle on and off what you want to actually display in this chart here for you to talk about, or just for your own edification there. And then we'll close that settings panel there. The next thing I really want to talk about here is diversification. So this is a really cool widget because it illustrates how different relationships within the portfolio are happening. So how they look, are they correlated to each other? Are these underlying holdings less correlated? How are they interacting with each other? And you'll see in this chart here, we have it color coded as well. So anything that's blue is going to be less correlated. Anything that is green, more correlated. And we're going to be displaying our top holdings here in the top of this widget. You can hover over each one of these and see how these chords are connecting. So, for example, Apple to AOR here, we have that correlation showing there as green. And then if it were less correlated, we would have it showing as blue here, like SPY and BND. Obviously, that makes sense. Now, another thing we have inside here is, so two more pieces actually. The first thing is diversified risk. So not only are we showing a visual representation of these anti-correlations or correlations, we're also showing, okay, if we were to look at this portfolio in a vacuum and not actually take into account any diversification whatsoever, we would actually be at a risk number 87 here. But because we are taking those correlations and those anti-correlations or diversification into account, we're getting a 3-point reduction here, and we're ending at a risk number 84. So kind of a cool way to show that to clients, like how much diversification actually matters and how much work you've put into making this a diversified account or portfolio. The last thing here is the 95% historical capture. So this is kind of another cool way to show, okay, that benchmark that we have selected here, the S&P 500, how much of that upside and how much of that downside are we capturing? And it's a great way to have that conversation and answer those questions from clients, that might come in and say, hey, I noticed like my portfolio is consistently underperforming the S&P 500. Why wouldn't I just put everything in the S&P 500 or an ETF that's linked to that S&P 500? Well, this is a great place where you can come and say, hey, look, you know, we're actually protecting you on that downside from the S&P 500. This might not be the best example here, but say this were like 75%. 75%, we're protecting you from a decent amount of that downside on the S&P 500 because we're only capturing 75% of that downside. We might only be, at like an 80 or a 90% of the upside capture, but you're protected on that downside. So kind of a cool way you can hop in and have those conversations. Now, there's a lot of widgets in here, so I will mention really quick if you're wanting to learn more about each one of these, we have some great help resources. You can always navigate down here into your help tab and search for anything that you're looking to learn more about. So maybe you're looking to learn more about that 95% historical range or that capture ratio there. You can type that in and we will surface help articles or even videos for you to learn more about. Back to this guy here. So asset class is the next one down here. Pretty straightforward. Only thing I'm really going to mention about this guy is if you do have a benchmark selected, that gray bar is going to be the benchmark. The colored bars are going to be your account or the portfolio that you're viewing. Next guy is stock intersection. So this is kind of a newer one, but a great tool to illustrate and show clients what their equity exposure is across either this account or the entire portfolio, and answer those questions. For when clients come in, they're like, "Hey, Nvidia's been in the news a lot lately. I'd really love to be invested in it. Why am I not?" Well, you can actually show them you are. And it's not directly invested in Nvidia. We're actually uh, exposed to it via this stock or via this ETF, so SPY here. So kind of a cool way to show that. You can click into each one of these and show what the source of that stock is, and show what the percentage is, as well as the market value and percent of equities there. So great tool there. Last couple things here, regional exposure, pretty simple here. Again, it's going to show the portfolio here in the color and the benchmark there as well. And just showing you where your overall portfolio is exposed across the continents. And then two more things. So Risk and reward, pretty simple. Again, it's going to be risk plotted against reward. Kind of a hidden thing here on top of being able to change the time frames that you're viewing these. You can actually click into the portfolio here to expand the view a little bit and see where that the concentration lies for those top holdings. So, for example, Apple or SPY, you can view what percentage of that portfolio is and how it is plotting on this chart here. And then size and style. So we have a pretty simple visual representation of both size and style, which you can toggle between there. So that was a lot. Again, if you want to learn more, hop into that help center there.